Please get ready for the passage. Madam Speaker, I lay on the table of the House a statement on attacks on Indians in Australia and the steps being taken by Government of India as well as by the Australian government in dealing with various issues involved. The attacks on Indian students have been coming to our notice for over 2 years now, since 2007, when some students were assaulted in Sydney. In 2008 and 2009 also, there were other sporadic instances of assaults on Indian students, including some working as taxi drivers in Melbourne and in Adelaide. However, it is since May 2009 that there seems to have been a significant increase in the number and frequency of attacks on Indians in Australia. This has coincided with the substantial increase in the number of Indian students studying in Australia over the last 3 years. The attacks continued in a sporadic manner till May 2009. On 9th May, a student was attacked in a train by a gang of 4 to 5 people. On 23rd May 2009, a young student studying in Melbourne was savagely attacked with a screwdriver, resulting in serious injuries to his head. On 2nd January 2010, another student was attacked late at night while crossing a park in a Melbourne suburb on his way to work. He later died in the hospital. While there were other cases of assaults on Indian students and taxi drivers in Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland, most of the incidents seem to have been occurring in and around Melbourne. On 14th January 2010 night, there was an incident of arson by fire in Cranbourne Nanaksar That Gurdwara in Melbourne. These attacks received extensive coverage in the media in both countries. Each assault was taken up with the Australian authorities at the state level by the consulates general and at the state and federal levels by the High Commission of India. The incidents relating to Indian students and nationals in Australia have involved one or more of the following elements: robbery, assault, violence fueled by alcohol, drugs, juvenile crime, and racial abuse. Other contributing factors have been the financial constraints of the Indian students, which have led to them living in poor neighborhoods, working late hours, and traveling in late night public transport, all of which have made them more vulnerable to street crime, which has been on the increase in Melbourne, where most of the incidents have taken place. The profile of the attackers in most of these assaults is of youngsters in their teens and early 20s, largely under the influence of drugs or alcohol. The attackers are of mixed ethnicity, including sometimes other Indians. Some of the attacks have had racial elements. Besides the obvious law and order problem, the other issues which have come to the fore include the commercialization of the Australian international education industry and laxity in monitoring, enforcing compliance of the regulations by the Australian authorities. The increase in number of students in vocational education and training sector was linked to the immigration system of Australia, which gave priority in the last few years to applicants for permanent residency in certain skills where there are significant shortages. These immigration rules are now in the process of undergoing changes. Of the various reports and reviews commissioned by the Australian government to look into the several problems being faced by the students, two have submitted their reports and made specific recommendations to improve conditions for international students. The Australian federal and state government authorities have taken action in providing relief to Indian students affected due to the sudden closure of certain colleges, in making them aware of their rights and relocating them in other colleges. Following some attacks on Indian taxi drivers last year, the South Australia government has set up a taxi council to hold regular discussions with taxi drivers, many of whom are students. The Australian Department of Immigration and Citizenship has introduced measures to strengthen checks on student visa applications to stamp out fraud and ensure that students have the financial capacity to live and study in Australia. The department has recently announced an overhaul of the general skilled migration rules leading to permanent residency in Australia. The Victorian government strengthened the Victorian Sentencing Act 1991 in December 2009 and is conducting a review of the justice system under a retired Supreme Court judge to address racial crime. As a result of these measures, the number of incidents recorded in these suburbs has decreased. 300 police officers are being added to the Victorian Police to form a rapid response unit to address continued attacks. Other concrete measures taken by the Victorian government include the setting up of an international student care service. The service has 24/7 hotline staffed by trained persons, some of whom also speak Hindi. The center provides psychological counseling, legal assistance with any problem with educational institute, employer or landlord or any other authority. It also provides financial assistance to students for temporary accommodation as well as assistance to take care of medical expenses, etc. India-Australia relations have been expanding rapidly over the last few years. India attaches importance to its relationship with Australia, and we are committed to further strengthening and expanding our relations to cover virtually every area of interaction. People to people contacts are at the heart of any relationship. It is estimated that almost half a million Indians and people of Indian origin live in Australia today. The older, more established Indian community in Australia consists largely of skilled professionals such as doctors, accountants, engineers, and academics. It has traditionally been seen as a model migrant community and lauded for its contribution to the Australian economy, having settled and integrated well and highly regarded for their industry and skills. The Indian community is contributing in making Australia the vibrant multicultural society that it is today. They are a vital bond between our two countries. Let there be no doubt that we take the incidents of assaults on our students very seriously. I would like to assure you that the Australian authorities have been fully apprised of the gravity of the situation. They have taken several measures to improve security and surveillance. It can be honestly said that they are making efforts to meet our concerns. However, the issue consists of several complex factors, all of which are interlinked and need to be dealt with in a concerted and coordinated manner. I assure the House that we will continue to monitor the situation closely and work closely with the Australian authorities to deal with the issues concerned and improve the safety and security of our students in Australia.